in your butt, twin.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Let me sit up. Let me get my Kindle. Let me close my door. I'm so excited for Nosferatu. You must bounce on
I
it.
I feel like I'm getting conflicting information
About what?
because Sunny said that Saturday they're going to be at Sapphic Country Party, but then in Canadians told Natanis that they're going to do something Friday.
Fucking
And I
ask
thought that's
them.
what the country party was.
Just fucking ask them.
Well, I'm trying to get your, if you know what it is.
No, I don't fucking know.
Or,
Also, I have Canadians
well,
muted.
that's what
I have Canadians muted. I never look in there.
Okay.
Alright, I'll give you a minute to yell at that bitch. Are you yelling at that bitch right now or no?
I'm asking. I want to message any Canadians.
I'm
Oh, yeah.
fucking asking.
Yeah, they are. You read it right up above.
Great. Fucking shaming them. I'm shaming them because they're FOMO.
It's right here.
What do you mean? Should be done by 7?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll fucking
By
see.
7? It better be before that.
It's not gonna be by 7, bro. It's gonna be by like 8 or 9. You know this. You know this deep in your heart.
I'm trying to be positive because if I don't, I might crash out.
Okay, what happened last time? Mooching.
The whole fucking lava situation,
Mm-hmm.
right?
The whole fucking llama situation, yeah.
He almost fell, hanging on. He didn't think Shelly Ann was going to save him. Um, while the whole time he was coming up with a plan on how to save him.
Mm-hmm.
And
Chilean remembered like the situation that happened with him in the past. And he realized that he had never forgotten, he had just shoved it down.
yeah,
And then Hua Chung and Function were still on the building, and Hua Chung was like super nervous. He's like, if you don't hurry up, I'm gonna come get you. And Function's like, I'm surprised you let him do that. And Hua Chung's like, he's allowed to do what he wants to do. Also, I already knew he was gonna do this.
yeah.
Because that's what Hua Chung loves about him. And so he grabs Mu Ching. Mu Ching's flabbergasted. He's burned to shit. His legs are burned. His arms are burned. And so Shilian flings him at Fang Shin, the sword, so that he can go back across. And Shilian's still on Mu Ching's saber, and he's about to jump, and he gets grabbed by White No Face, who came out of the lava waterfall. And then Hua Chung jumped in after him. Mu Ching fell. And yeah. So let me see. Yeah, Mooching tried to grab Royer to save him, but it just pulled him down with him. And then Hua Cheng had jumped down too. But wait, the lava pool was right below. And now we're on Chapter 127. Upon the Heaven Crossing Bridge, 3 idiots return to olden times.
3.
Shilian was drowning, perhaps in mind-blowing fear, or perhaps in the scorching lava. It was a long time before he slowly came to. The moment he woke, he found he was lying on a cold, solid ground. Mooching was slumped nearby, staring blankly at him. Shilian's vision was still faintly red, and he sat up in a flash. "Sanlang!" The moment he sat up, Mooching snapped out of it and yelled, "Stay still!" On reflex, Shilian reached out to push himself off the ground, but his hand touched nothing but air. He lost his balance and almost toppled. Only after the surprise wore off did he realize he wasn't on solid ground at all. He was lying on a bridge. He'd found himself in an immense natural cave. Its dome arched into the vast night sky, and a desecrated bridge floated beneath the canopy. Constructed from wood and stone, the bridge's body was shattered and scorched a terrifying pitch black. It had weathered thousands of years of storms, and was burdened with ashes from countless blazes. It hung in midair without any pillars of support, and both ends stretched endlessly into infinity. Its beginning unknown, its end unforeseeable, and its direction a mystery. In some parts it was as wide as 9 meters, but others were so narrow that only one person could cross at a time. A red-hot lava pool roiled hundreds of meters beneath the broken bridge, like the red basin of hell. The Heaven Crossing Bridge. Those words were the first to pop into Shilian's mind. 2,000 years ago, the Crown Prince of Wuyang built a bridge to the heavens in an attempt to save his people from disaster. Could this bridge be all that remained? He remembered being yanked into the lava by White No-Face. How had he ended up on this bridge? Shilian crawled to his feet. "Sanlang!" "Don't bother, he's not here," Mooching said. He remained seated to the side. Shilian turned to him. "How did we end up here? Did someone activate a teleportation array?" "Probably," Mooching said. "I was falling straight for the lava pool, but I was sent here halfway down." Poor Feng Xin. All 3 of them had fallen, and he was the only one who had stayed up top. He was probably cursing up a storm again. Still, finding Hua Cheng was the priority. Where had he been sent? Shilian spotted Fang Xin and the long saber that had been tossed to the side. He picked them up, then walked to Mooching. The way he approached, holding a sword and wearing a dark expression, suddenly made Mooching nervous, unsure of what he was planning to do. However, Shilian only gave him his saber, then extended a hand to him. "Are you all right? If you're fine, then get up. We have to get going." Mooching stared at the hand extended to him. After a long silence, he shook his head. "I can't. All of my limbs are injured." Shilian crouched and briefly checked him over. Sure enough, both of Mooching's hands were covered in bright red burns, and there were more on his legs. He could probably only shuffle along slowly. After a moment of contemplation, Shilian said, "Let me assist you, then." He pulled Mooching up and slung his arm over his shoulders. He began to walk, supporting him as he went. They'd only taken a few steps when Mooching blurted, "Why?" "Why what?" Shilian replied as he surveyed their surroundings. "I thought you'd be more suspicious of me after you found out that I was fine," Mooching said. "Oh," Shilian replied. "Well, no." "Why?" "Because I know." "Know what?" "That you weren't lying," Shilian replied. It was genuinely difficult to describe the expression on Mooching's face. "Didn't you ask me to believe you? I believe you. That's it," Shilian said, quite matter-of-factly. "How should I put this?" Shilian continued. "I've technically known you for centuries, right? So I know you're not like that. Haven't I said it before? You might spit in someone's cup, but you'd never dump poison in there." Muching was almost touched by the first part, but his face darkened when he heard the second half. Enough with the unnecessary example. Seriously, don't say that again. I wouldn't spit either. I'd never be so classless. Shillian waved. Don't mind the little details. Besides, even on the 1 in a million chance that I was unlucky enough to misjudge you, you can't beat me in Sanlong. We'd slap you dead in one blow. You're not a threat at all. You're doing this on purpose, aren't you? Muching grumbled. You're trying very hard to make me so pissed off I die. I'm joking. In any case, Shillian stopped laughing and clutched Muching's arm as he scanned the path forward. If Xunwu really did bind you with a cursed shackle because you refused to do something evil, then I can't let you pay a terrible price for it, he stated calmly, because you did the right thing. Muching glared at him for a long time. At last he spat through his teeth. Shillian, you really are... Save it, Shillian interrupted before he could continue. Do you think I don't know what you think of me? You're still depending on me to carry you right now, so don't say anything that'll make me want to toss you into the lava. Muching humphed. And here you are, saving me even though you know what I think of you. You know, I think we think the same way. By saving you, I'm just following my own principles, that's it, Shillian replied. Your actions have always been mystifying to me, and I definitely wanted to punch you to death for a while back then. But I didn't manage to do it, and at this point I've lost interest. No matter how incomprehensible you are, and no matter how much I want to punch you, your sins don't warrant death, you know? If I can save you, of course I'll do it if I can. Muching snorted a few times like he was deflating. After a moment of quiet, he added, Your Highness, I actually... Just then the ground under them grew unsteady, and their faces changed color. Muching was wounded and couldn't react in time, but fortunately Shillian moved with godly speed. He pushed off with the tips of his toes, and they landed lightly 10 meters ahead. Behind them, the section of the bridge they had just been walking on cracked, broke away, and began falling straight down into the lava. A section of the pitch-black bridge crashed into the hellish scarlet basin. The vengeful spirits roiling in the pool had been waiting for a long time, and they quickly reached for it. Hundreds of pairs of hands fought to grab on, as if they wanted to use it to escape from the sea of suffering. But there were too many of them. The stretch of broken bridge couldn't support all of them, and it sank quickly. The two above watched, shaking. Then they exchanged a look. It seems this bridge isn't very stable, Shillian commented. Muching opened and closed his mouth. He probably planned to say that they might as well turn back. The area of the bridge they had been lying on before was quite stable and spacious. But there was no way back now that the stretch behind them had collapsed, and retreat was no longer an option. The only way for them was forward. But the narrowing path ahead was treacherous. Danger hid all around them. Each step they took could potentially send them falling into the lava. Without another word, Shillian hoisted Muching onto his back. We can't stay in the same spot for too long. Who knows when this thing will collapse? Hold on tight. I'm going to dash through. As promised, Shillian leapt forward with flying steps. The farther they traveled, the more suffocatingly tight their footpath along the bridge became. Even the most substantial areas were not much wider than a doorway, and the narrowest areas were no wider than a person's waist. Even in such a perilous situation, not a hair on Shillian's head was ruffled during his flight. His feather-light feet pushed off the moment they made contact with the ground beneath him, like a swallow skimming the water's surface. Had there been other martial gods present, they would have been stunned by the brilliant and frightening level of control he had over his movement, even down to his very footsteps. None of them could possibly compare. Only one who trained vigorously without spiritual powers, day in and day out, could boast such masterful skill. A pillar of fire erupted before him without warning, blocking Shillian's path forward. Only his incredible reflexes allowed him to break in time. They were a hair's breadth from charging right into the fire and being burnt to a crisp. They looked down and realized that thousands of vengeful spirits the color of molten rock had gathered in the pool below. The spirits screeched and cackled as they reached towards them. These were the ones responsible for the pillar of fire. Their ears were beginning to ache from the noise. What are they screaming about? Mooching wondered. Come down, join us, rot to death here, Shilian mumbled. Mooching stared at him, terrified. You understand them? Aren't they speaking in the Wuyang tongue? Shilian nodded. They're the people of Wuyang who fell into the lava and burned to death after the Heaven Crossing Bridge collapsed. Careful not to get tangled up with them. They'll pull everything they see into the pool, just as I suspected. These are the remains of the Heaven Crossing Bridge. Will they be absolved if they pull people in? Mooching questioned. No, Shilian replied. That won't happen, no matter what they do. These vengeful spirits will never receive absolution, but they enjoy seeing others suffer their fate. And that was precisely why they would never receive absolution and had to suffer the torment of this basin of hell. Let me drink. Mooching was puzzled. How do you know so much? I don't know, Shilian said, but he was probably the one who told me. The same as how he'd transplanted the memories that let Shilian understand the screeching of the corpse-eating rats. The molten vengeful spirits were quite displeased that they hadn't fallen, and they crept together to whisper amongst themselves. Suddenly they all joined hands, ready to make their next attack. Shilian broke out into a run. A pillar of fire burst forth, and the already damaged bridge was devastated even further. They couldn't just keep taking a beating without retaliating. Shilian tried sending a blast down below, but he didn't have much spiritual power left, and couldn't shoot very far. Mooching's spiritual power reserves had more in them and could travel farther, but he still came up just slightly short. The pillars of fire from below kept almost burning their ankles. The enormous crowd of vengeful spirits had banded together, and their energy was immense when consolidated. They crackled and pointed at the two with great excitement, as if they were watching a highly entertaining show. It was incredibly vexing that they couldn't attack them at all. Mooching, still on Shilian's back, cracked his knuckles. He radiated hate and fury. A moment later, Mooching gritted his teeth and panted a few breaths. He'd clearly found the resolve to make a very difficult decision. Forget it, Your Highness. Shilian, put me down. What are you saying? You love your life and you're terrified of death, Shilian replied as he dashed along. You'd never say something like that. Veins bulged violently on Mooching's forehead. Well, sorry for loving my life and being terrified of death, but I'm going to die either way. So, put me down before I change my mind. Stop joking around. Don't talk anymore. You'll make me lose focus, Shilian said. What matters right now is finding the end of this bridge as soon as possible. Who's joking around? Mooching exclaimed. If this really is the Heaven Crossing Bridge, who the hell knows how much longer you'll have to run? They'll throw us off sooner or later. Put me down and go on ahead. I'll kill all that slippery trash down there. Then he lightly pushed off Shilian's shoulder and leapt away, landing behind him. Shilian turned and took a step towards him, but Mooching warned him otherwise. Don't come back here. The path is narrow. We'll both fall if you do. Shilian had no choice but to pause. Mooching humphed again. You know, we do think the same way. You think I'm incomprehensible? Well, the feeling's mutual. He met Shilian's gaze. At this point, I might as well just tell it to you straight. I've got a whole bunch of opinions about you. Well, I knew that already for ages now, Shilian said. Oh, really? Mooching said coldly. Then do you know that I often thought you relied on your status too much? That even though you were His Highness the Crown Prince, even though you had good fortune, your skills weren't that much better than mine? I also thought that you probably only liked doing all those good deeds for show, because you wanted all the praise and flattery, and that you only helped me because of that. I was the perfect subject for you to demonstrate your sympathy and kindness on. To be honest, some of my opinions haven't changed, even now. Maybe they never will. Even if I push these thoughts down, they'll come back eventually. At that point, Chilean didn't know whether to sweat about this or what. There's no need to say stuff like that in such detail to the man himself, you know? Unexpectedly, Mu Ching continued with, "But more often than not, I'm still kind of in awe of you." Chilean was taken aback. Mu Ching gathered his courage. As though someone were choking him, forcing him to speak, he stiffly said, "Isn't that normal? You are rather amazing. You're also a better person than I am. In short, I very much wanted to become your friend." Chilean had never in a million years imagined he'd ever hear that from Mu Ching's lips. Though they were stuttered, forced, and stiff, they were such honest, sincere, sensible words. His eyes went wide. "You—" Mu Ching had finally squeezed the sentence out through the cracks of his gritted teeth, and he let out a long breath. "That incident after Shinla's fall. No matter if it was right or wrong, no matter if I was in a difficult situation, I still owe you an apology." Chilean was stumped for a moment. "It's all water under the bridge, so let it go. But let's not worry about it now. We need to get out of here first." Mu Ching raised his voice. "He told me that if I fell under suspicion, you would take advantage of this situation and not save me, even if you knew I didn't do it. That you wouldn't believe me because you hate me." He? Chilean knew exactly who he was. "I didn't agree to help him, but even so, everything he said, I've thought before," Mu Ching continued. "Deep down, I always thought you hated me, that you despised me, so I've always... Anyway, you don't actually think that way. I'm glad." Another pillar of fire roared to the skies, and Chilean backed away a few steps to dodge it, moving further from Mu Ching. As for Mu Ching, his rage surged, and he flung himself down, slapping his palm violently on the bridge's surface. Chilean's pupils shrank. "What are you doing?" As expected, the stretch of the bridge caved in and crashed down, taking Mu Ching along with it. "Helping you clear out the trash," Mu Ching shouted to him in midair. The broken bridge slammed into the pool and stirred a surge of towering waves. The molten, vengeful spirits swarmed over happily, ready to drag him in with them. Yet unexpectedly a booming blast swept past and dissipated a large field of them. Amidst the wailing of ghosts, Mu Ching stood at the center of the broken bridge and sneered. The spiritual light enveloping him blazed brightly. "Did it feel good to start those devious fires, you gang of gutter trash? Well, I've finally come down here, so don't run away now." Now his blasts could finally reach those molten, vengeful spirits. Mu Ching raised his blood-red palms and swept wildly at the vengeful spirits, killing to his heart's content. He was so forceful that the vengeful spirits who had been watching the show from further downstream scattered, screaming as they swam away in all directions. Fire had started to catch on Mu Ching's sleeves and hems. Chilean hung over the bridge's edge above and called to him. "Mu Ching! How high can you jump?" "Why do you have so much garbage left to say? Why haven't you left?" Mu Ching shouted. "It's not my fault," Chilean argued back. "You finally said something sensible for the first time in your life, and then you jumped off. How could I leave now?" Mu Ching was outraged. "What do you mean, finally said something sensible?" Before he could finish, the broken piece of bridge under his feet sank a few notches. Both their faces changed. At this rate, he really was going to be engulfed by the lava, his bones dissolving into nothing but air. Mu Ching's face was a ghastly shade now, despite his previous high spirits. He closed his eyes and raised his palms, as if he planned to seek a more straightforward death by smashing through his own skull before he burned alive. Wait! Don't be rash! I've got a plan!" Chilean hastily cried. Mu Ching opened his eyes again. "What plan?" Although Royer couldn't reach the very bottom, it could make it halfway. "Jump with everything you've got!" Chilean shouted as he tossed Royer down. "Jump and catch it! I'll pull you up!" Mu Ching's face paled by another shade. "If I could jump, when I need to think of another way out—" He went back to trying to muster the courage to smack himself dead. Wait! Chilean exclaimed. Really, wait! I'll think of something soon! Well, out with it then! Something. Something! Quick, think of something! He had nothing! Mooching raised his hand again. Yet unexpectedly, amidst their spiraling despair, another hand slapped away his suicidal fist, then grabbed him bodily. With a dazed Mooching dangled in his hold, the man leapt. Suddenly, Shilian felt the other end of the white silk band tighten, and he was both surprised and overjoyed to see why. Feng Shin! The broken bridge piece on which Mooching had stood sank completely into the depths of the lava stream, bubbling as it did. Feng Shin dangled from Royer, gripping it with one hand, while the other held an ashen-faced Mooching. Your Highness, quick! Pull us up! Feng Shin yelled at Shilian. There were more empty-shelled people paddling in the lava. Feng Shin had likely ridden them here from upstream. There was no time to ask questions, and Shilian hurried over to a section of the bridge that was somewhat wider and sturdier before pulling them up. As the two were steadily lifted, a new band of molten, vengeful spirits gathered beneath them, shooting resentful glares upwards and grumbling in their huddle. Soon another pillar of fire shot up. Feng Shin and Mooching were hanging in midair and couldn't dodge on their own, so Shilian gripped Royer and hurried several steps away to evade the attack. But there wasn't anywhere else on the bridge as spacious or stable, so after dodging the blow he could only return to where he'd been. Feng Shin was almost burned by that pillar of fire, and he shouted in outrage. What's wrong with you? You pieces of dog shit! Attacking people while they're down? So vile! Fuck your entire family! You sure you want to fuck their families if they all look like that? Shilian responded. The vengeful spirits hadn't given up. Giggling, they appeared ready to continue their ambush. Feng Shin's temper had peaked, and he pulled Mooching up. Hold on to this! Mooching numbly did as he was told and grabbed the white silk band. His reaction was a little dull because the shock was just too great. He had truly thought he was about to die. Without the need to hold him, Feng Shin could free up a hand to retrieve the longbow on his back, as well as several wooden sticks he'd picked up along the way. Using the sticks as arrows, he held the bow in one hand and used his teeth to bite back the bowstring. He knocked the sticks, pulled the bowstring back steadily, and let fly 4 arrows at once. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. The arrows plunged into the fiery pool, and where they struck, blossoms of waves erupted. The molten vengeful spirits tumbled over themselves in terror and scattered once again. Gratified at last, Feng Shin cussed. See that? I said I'd fuck you up! Fucking pieces of dog shit! This ancestor can blow all of you away with one hand! Let me drink. At last, the 3 of them stood together upon the heaven-crossing bridge. Shilian wiped at his sweat over and over. His heart was still pounding. Feng Shin, how did you get here? At that question, Feng Shin immediately clutched his head. How did I get here? All 3 of you jumped in. What else was I supposed to do? I almost went fucking crazy. I found my way to the bottom of the cliff, then drifted all the way here. I only stumbled on you 2 because I followed all the rumbling and shouting. What were you doing, jumping into the lava pool? Madness! Mooching, who had finally come to his senses, exclaimed, I was dragged in! Imagining Feng Shin in distress and cursing the whole way here, Shilian thought it best to say, all right, calm down. All that aside, you were an absolute godsend, a major help. You know what they say, sometimes people really need a helping hand to get by. Really. All 3 of them had been scared half to death. They gasped for breath, their faces ashen. But after sorting themselves out and pulling through that mess, they didn't dare stick around. Feng Shin hoisted Mooching onto his back, and they continued leaping across the heaven-crossing bridge. As they went, they exchanged what they knew, and Shilian learned that Feng Shin hadn't seen Hua Cheng either. He couldn't help but worry. Where was Hua Cheng? They would have to search along the bridge as they went. By the way, I overheard a little bit of what you were screaming about earlier, Feng Shin said to Mooching, who was on his back. The first bit was infuriating. It made me want to beat you up. But I never imagined you actually thought all that deep down, you little bastard. Mooching's expression had gone completely dark. Function turned to Shilian. Didn't I tell you? This guy's feelings are more twisted than a resentful concubine's in the depths of a harem. He is completely unfathomable. Seeing the stormy look on Muching's face, Shilian gestured for Function to stop. Function was entirely oblivious, though, and turned to Muching to continue. If you wanted to be friends with His Highness, then you should have just said so. I really don't know what you were thinking, going around making people sick with all that sarcasm just because you thought His Highness despised you so much that you couldn't be friends. Shilian gave up and waved dismissively. He's been like that since we were young, hasn't he? Don't scold him anymore. Look at his face. He's all red. Unable to bear it a moment longer, Muching yelled, What the fuck? What the actual fuck? Can't you two just shut up? You seem to have caught Function's vocabulary. It's not very polite to swear, Shilian reminded him. Function piped up. You said it yourself. You very much wanted to be His Highness's friend. He even purposely imitated Muching's teeth-gritted stutter. Muching's expression had gone savage, and his hand had crept behind his back to seek his saber. Alright, now that we've cleared the air, anyways, just remember this. His Highness never thought you were beneath him, Function added. Other than that time you crossed the line and he got mad, he's never said a single bad word about you in front of me. So just act like a normal person from now on. Talk normally. Express yourself normally. I'm gonna yell at you if you get sarcastic again. Muching hung his head and quietly listened to the first part, but the latter half had him rolling his eyes. Haven't you yelled at me for centuries at this point? Muching, you're a heavenly official. You have to pay attention to your image, all right? Shilian reminded him. You can't roll your eyes so often. Your devotees will object if they see. Please, Muching said. This guy swears all day in the upper court. Function humphed. That's because you deserve it. Stop bringing up old quarrels with me, Muching said. Didn't you also ditch His Highness to go sire a son? Veins were popping on Function's forehead, too, now, and he rolled up his sleeves. You trying to start a fight? Muching sneered. Fight yourself. If you didn't shit-talk me to His Highness all day, do you think I would have been so convinced that he looked down on me and got all weird about it? They devolved into that vicious cycle of arguments again, and Shilian spoke up. Will you two stop airing out each other's dirty laundry at a time like this? What's the point of hurting each other? Muching rolled his eyes again and scoffed. Ugh. Besides, you freaked out so badly back then. So what if he robbed someone? If I were His Highness, at that point I would have already robbed 18 wealthy, prominent households without batting an eye. You're the one who made such a big deal out of it by relentlessly demanding an explanation from His Highness. Sweating over this back and forth, Shilian glanced over his shoulder. Wait a sec, there's no need to air mine either. Anyway, Sanlong, help me find Sanlong. Ha ha ha. It's the end of the chapter. There's a picture of them on the bridge together. Hold on.
I love them.
I love them so much. This is my Shaylas. They're friends again. They're back into their old routine. They're friends.
So cute.
And fucking Muching thought Function would never save him, and Function just went and saved him. Function's a big puppy.
Blow my brains out.
Bro, did you think Muching was gonna die? He was trying to sacrifice himself. He was trying to sacrifice himself so bad.
I was like getting a little nervous, but then I was like, "There's no way. There's no way."
He wanted to sacrifice himself so bad, but they're like,
know.
"We're not
He was
fucking
gonna
let you
beat
do that."
himself to death like an egg.